Master. It's been quite some time. I hope that you've been resting peacefully. The place and time now is almost 900 years after your death, although I'm not quite sure if that is correct. The days, months, and years have all seemed to blend together. At the least, I've now been able to have some physical method of keeping track. Almost 200 years ago, someone created a fixed way of documenting the passage of time. While the world itself has changed much from since you were alive, nothing really in terms of our work has shifted. Beastkin are still a fairly common occurrence, and I have yet to see any request for hunts slow. Even though mankind has been expanding further and further across the world, it still amazes me how unknowing, or ignorant, they are of these creatures. Good work to keep myself going, but it doesn't bode well in the long run. At the same time, it seems the teachings you have passed down to me are now in danger of being lost forever. The Raziel Order, the ones that closed down the hunter outposts in the region we called home, have been through the years targeting and disposing of these documents in any form. Scroll, book, tablet, all are being confiscated and destroyed. It is for that reason that I am making this log. I hope that with this new audio technology, that maybe I can keep it in a smaller form, and as such will allow these recountings to survive. From what I can tell, they are the only form of bestiary that we have. It is with that intent I begin reading these pages once again. The Book of the Moon. Contained within this chapter are the compiled stories of hunters and victims alike, amalgamated into an archive to best familiarize oneself with the beastkin known as the lycan. In present times, most people apparently prefer to call them werewolves. The exact origin of lycans is still unconfirmed to this day, as of accounts in this archive. However, one suspected theory was documented and researched by the hunter Zhao Qing. I'll never get used to these Eastern names. A few years after mankind began to spread their history in the form of spoken word, to the north, far from any livable area, was a supposed monstrous white wolf that he suspected was the original physical form and ancestor to all lycan. Driven from its home by the changing of the weather, it was forced south, where it was hunted and killed by a human tribe that lived in the frozen tundra. This original lycan spirit was then separated into smaller, weaker versions of itself when its body was taken for sustenance. For each tribe member that consumed the white wolf's flesh, a spirit took residence within their body. Zhao investigated the supposed location of this tribe, traveling as far north as he could. What he found was a horrifying scene. It is unknown if what he stumbled upon was by conscious choice of the tribe, or some influence by the white wolf's segmented spirit. But the remains he found all pointed to one thing: cannibalism. All the bodies he found were long deceased, each with chunks of flesh taken from their forms by blades, although some even had wounds exactly like bite marks. Among those remains, there was one suspected to be the head of the tribe. While still human in shape, there were various cuts, almost like claw marks across their body, and from those wounds emerged patches of fur. Zhao surmised that this once human tribe may have been the first ones to be turned into lycan, and that the white wolf's spirit may have driven them to do so, in order to merge the various parts of itself into a single whole again. With this information compiled, he tried to make his discoveries known, but by that time his mind had started to fade, and cynics dismissed his words as the ramblings of a madman. Today, this theory is considered unsupportable due to the remains now having long wasted away back into the earth, his main source of proof gone. Other theories had become more popular and adopted as a result, some even going as far as to steal pieces of his research. An example is one where the act of consuming human flesh itself is what results in one turning into a lycan. However, many hunters still hold this original story as truth, and the explanation as to why lycans only truly exist in spiritual form, as well as their only method of manifesting being the possession of a human. One of the most controversial parts of this chapter comes from the lycan research conducted by the hunter Mikhail. In a rare situation that some believe was accomplished by less than humane means, he had managed to follow a lycan, one that had kidnapped a young villager. Instead of swiftly slaying the beast or rescuing the youth, Mikhail observed them, documenting his findings twice a day, once in the daytime and the second in the middle of the night. During the day, there was nothing eventful, but after the sun went down, each night the lycan became more and more violent towards its captive. At first it would only leave a few shallow scratches, but soon escalated to deeper cuts and even taking small bites. However, it always stopped shy of causing death, as if it knew how much pain it could inflict on the boy. This constant torture eventually drove the child mad, and seemingly at that point Mikhail witnessed a strange event. This night, the lycan didn't attack the youth. Instead, it merely laid there, slowly fading away until only the shriveled corpse of its host remained. The boy, who I can only deem as broken in every way considered possible, merely sat there as this happened. Moments after, he began to shift, and it was at this point I stopped my observations and took his life. What Mikhail witnessed is what most consider to be the ritual of a lycan spirit transferring to a new host. That being said, his choice of curiosity over ethics had many choose to completely ignore his writings. There is understandable lack of humanity in what he did, but I can't agree with the choice of disregarding this information entirely. The event revealed to us that there was in fact an inherent purpose to the people lycan take. As to why the beast tortured the boy in the way Mikhail documented, it is supposedly covered in a following chapter, the Book of Three, which discusses the three powers which exist in all living beings. The traits, abilities, and behaviors known and documented to this point come from the three hunter sisters of Angeline, Florentine, and Josephine, whose accolade was observing and hunting numerous lycan at once. This account in itself is considered a rather strange and potentially dangerous event, because previous records up to this point only documented encounters with a single lycan. A pack of 4 cooperative beasts gave weight to Zhao's original claims, as it could be believed that these 4 spirits had gravitated towards each other. The 3 sisters spent numerous months observing their targets, watching how they changed, each taking shifts so that they could get a continuous thread to their story. It is due to this that some claim that sleep deprivation led to their discoveries being dreamlike fabrications, but their successful hunt of the pack has deemed those suspicions as unfounded. It was in their writings that it was first documented that lycan did not maintain their full bestial forms each day. Their appearance would shift, correspondingly with changes in the moon's presence. As Angeline speaks, the moon was like their mother, and in her full presence were they at their strongest. It was when she has her back turned that they are weakest. While not fully removed, the presence of fur and claws were reduced, to the point that many people would likely mistake them for being mere brigands or potential mountain-dwelling folk. Even Josephine at one point during her watch almost lost sight of one because of this change. However, the sisters all stated that those four never acted like their former selves. Even when they were mostly human, they crawled on all fours, or were hunched over as if ready to pounce. They never used words, only guttural growls and howls. They were no longer human. Lycans exhibit very similar behaviors as their animal brethren, mainly focusing on the most basic needs to survive. In the pack, they became even bolder, going so far as to attack passing caravans that were carrying food, especially fresh meat. To the sisters' luck, no victims were taken as potential next hosts during the entire length of their study. That being said, one major note in the text is that lycans to this day are still the only known beastkin to have these two unique traits. Their ability to possess and manifest another being, and their ability to achieve a form of shapeshifting, albeit mostly incomplete. Majority of the deemed effective ways for hunting these beasts come from the hunters Bertrand and Agatha, a couple who hunted down a lycan many years after, and who ended up having to bring an early and tragic end to the life of their young child. It was also from their story that the method of containment of the lycan spirit was found. Agatha was born from a young age with an extremely high sensitivity to the spiritual plane, which was soon put to good use when she was taken in and trained by the organization at the time. When their town was terrorized by a lycan, both were severely wounded from the initial encounter, but discovered that they were protected when hiding in a field of wolfsbane or bearing an ornamental dagger of silver. Unfortunately, their brief moment of weakness had given the lycan enough time to take their infant child from its crib and back to its den. Bertrand, armed with a wood-cutting axe whose blade was coated with silver melted from the ornamental dagger, and Agatha, wielding a bow with arrowheads dipped in the poison of wolfsbane flowers, set out to rescue their child. During the encounter, Bertrand was killed, as he was unable to match the beast's agility, but Agatha's arrows managed to slay the creature. Unfortunately, she was not able to spare their child. Her sensitivity picked up on the lycan spirit leaving the body of its original host and entering into the youth. In her near-death state, her sensitivity was heightened to the point she could see the spirit taking hold in the head of the babe, and she made the sacrifice, taking the axe and decapitating the infant before the lycan could fully manifest. Seeing that the spirit was now captive in the child's now half-human, half-beast head, she headed back to the town. It was only a few nights after that she passed from her wounds, but not before conveying her and her late family's tragic tale. It was from their account that the text, I'm guessing from someone who compiled this book, also suggests that this lycan spirit may have gained strength from a prior uncontained form. Supposedly, the town they were from was not too far from where Zhao discovered the original tribe that consumed the white wolf, and that it was possible, should a lycan spirit not be captured, it will continuously gain strength as it passes from host to host. It was then that the organization made it mandatory for all hunts involving a lycan to be confirmed with the presentation of the beast's head. If a head could not be obtained, then it was almost guaranteed that a new bounty would be placed soon after for the presence of a lycan close to where the previous host was slain. The chapter ends there, but not without a shortened message, mainly to be said to new hunters as a reminder. Lycans are considered extremely dangerous alone, and even more so in a pack. Should you encounter a single lycan, do your best to wait until the moon is half or completely absent from the sky before making your attack. If more than one is found, do not proceed. Instead, bring your findings to the local outpost, and a joint hunt will be conducted. Wolfsbane and Silver are your friends, but the best and most permanent way of defeating a lycan is like most any other creature: the removal of its head. If you are unable to decapitate the beast in the presence of a captured human, you must do so to the new host, lest a new lycan be formed. If I may, with so many years of tracking, observing, and hunting lycans, there is one answer I may give to those who ask the following question if hearing this archive. If Zhao's story is true, and the spirits are pieces of a whole, have any merged back together? My suspicion is that they are no longer capable of doing so. While they all shared the same origin, their time spent apart, passing through different hosts while absorbing their strength, made them no longer compatible. Each host's body's strength taken diluted their connection to each other. Like any other living being, experience and time are as much, if not a stronger factor to one's whole being, in spite of their origin of creation. However, with the numerous lycan bounties still present, I am almost wondering if they are still capable of division. I'll stop the recording there, as that concludes the Book of the Moon. From what I know, this part contains the second least amount of content compared to the other beastkin chapters. I guess there is still a lot of mystery yet to be discovered surrounding the lycan, but from what I've found, the methods in here have proven to be sound. It is why my blade is now treated with wolfsbane oil, and if things go right with the new design I have requested be made, will allow me to utilize bolts filled with liquid silver. But for now, this marks the end of the chapter. It's getting late, and I need to get moving, lest the bounty I've been tracking slips from my grasp.